Okay, well, I'd say the biggest thing this week has been the Riot settlement. If you've heard about that, Riot
Riot
has
settled for $100 million.
yes. So the 2018 uh, the gender discrimination suit in California has settled for $100 million. 80 million will go towards the women and the employees and contractors at Riot who worked there between 2014 and now.
Do you know how many people that is?
Yes, that's 2,300 workers.
Okay, let's math it up.
But here's the thing: that's not all. Before you even math it,
Okay,
that's not a comprehensive amount, right? Because
all
uh,
right.
a couple of the details are that they were agreeing to settle. They originally agreed uh, to settle the suit in 2019 for 10 million, but
Mm-hmm.
then California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing intervened and said victims should be entitled to up to 400.
Mm-hmm.
So, nuh-uh, fuck that. And then it went forward until for the next 2 years until today, where they landed on the 100. The thing to note is that, yeah, so 2,300 workers are eligible to be part of the 80 million of the settlement. Uh, former Riot, but former Riot employees who were fired but had to take severance out of a financial need and signed away their right to be part of the settlement when that
Mm-hmm.
happened. So there are people who were or would have been a part of this that when they were fired, if they were fired, agreed to take severance and basically signed away that ability with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the number of those eligible is at 2,300.
Well, it comes out to about 34,000 people total. Sorry, to $34,000 a person, which that's not nothing, but that's definitely not a year's worth of their salary.
For most jobs of this caliber, definitely below. Yes, not at all. Yeah, it's something. The argument again that California made was that four times that is a likelier um,
Mm-hmm.
value amount for what they were responsible for, but
Likely why they settled.
I guess so.
Riot doesn't want to pay $400 million, and the people handling the lawsuit don't want to keep fighting this lawsuit for the next 15 years.
Yeah, well, the difference between 10 million and 400 is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that you find a common ground somewhere in that. It easily could have been double that, but that's what they went with. Um, Overall, the people who negotiated that are fairly happy with that outcome, and yeah, basically, this is one of those big ones. I don't know if anything else was pending, but there might be like other individual smaller damage cases attached with these types of things. But it says, yeah, but the recap on this one is that Riot was mainly uh, being looked at as, rather, they're mainly being sued from a class action discrimination suit because they had a ginormous record of treating women like shit. In short, um, so yeah, that happened this week.
Where would that be?
Riot Games.
No, no. You were saying maybe they won't treat women like shit.
No, that's not what I said. I said they had a history of.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I for some my brain completely heard maybe they can find employment elsewhere, somewhere where they don't treat women like shit, and my
No,
brain
that's
goes like fucking where.
no. I didn't say that.
My mistake. My cynicism is now changing what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
You think Riot will improve after being forced to pay a settlement of like less than 1% of their yearly net?
Nowhere in this does it talk about a like cleansing out
Oh
of
no.
of the people. So no, at certain points the beast is too big. The beast is too big. There's you know there's nothing to be said or done here. And I don't even know what the Blizzard version of this looks like. But like when it's that big, it's that deep root. The rot is settled in. You know, like they're like Bobby Kotick is basically like hunkering down to not leave. It's like
The Blizzard version recently, there was a guy that I think he finally got kicked out of Blizzard like last week or something. I forget the details or his name, but he was a dude that just literally hung out all day in like conspiracy alt-right discords at work and would bother people at work. And he's apparently one of the first 16 Blizzard employees. And in interviews, people were like, "I didn't know what that dude's job was." Because all he does is hang out in these fucking crazy fucking discords and talk shit at us.
Yeah. Yeah. There's there's not much to be said except for this is gonna take a really long time.
But for real though, the Blizzard version of this story is talent drain. Anybody anybody that is not personally responsible for this and has a decent CV is just running from the company
The term
because they can get a job somewhere else.
The often used term is churn.
Yeah.
When employees just fucking hit the revolving door.
Churn's a real good term. It was invented by some businessman to obfuscate the fact that people sign up and quit fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To obfuscate the question of why do you burn through employees? Oh no, it's just churn. It's part of the industry.
Yeah. Well, because it goes hand in hand with the design structure where crunch is an inevitability unless it's actively fought against.
Speaking of, is Ken Levine's shit on the fucking docket today?
It wasn't. I was just gonna just briefly mention the part where people at Blizzard are shocked at the amount of people leaving. They've never seen anything like it. This is the highest it's ever been in terms of churn. But no.
Okay, so I've been seeing people talk about this today, people that I trust that are basically describing how the game he is currently making is like years away and that there's basically nothing made. And then they go back to old interviews where he describes the finding the fun part of development, and employees on his current project are really frustrated because the way that Ken Levine designs a game is to, quote, let the game almost run out of time, and then you have to make the hard decisions about what to put in the game. And the description of him coming in after having played Dead Cells and being like, this should be more like Dead Cells, and just throwing out people, like months of people's work. Like how BioShock Infinite was basically made in like 6 months. They just took all the assets that they had that worked and just jammed them in.
Jesus Christ.
Failing upward. You remember how BioShock Infinite was in development for like 8 years and cost hundreds of millions of dollars and then came out and was mid?
So that's the thing is, I wish we can get timelines that are more accurate on those types of stories, because it's like, no, but how long was spent on the version that shipped? Because there's timelines where you go this hard and then the game you're seeing is not a product of that many years.
Yeah.
There's a kill and a restart, and that's the real timeline.
Like Anthem was in development for 5 years. Really? The game that came out was in development for 5 years? No, actually, that one was in development for 8 months.
Yeah. So these numbers, like,
it reminds me of let's take everybody's favorite Resident Evil 4.
Cyberpunk? Oh.
No, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was back in the day before AAA, as it were. It was just a big budget Capcom game. Okay. Resident Evil 1.9 becomes Resident Evil 3. Okay. Resident Evil 4 becomes Devil May Cry. Resident Evil 4 becomes Haunting Ground. Resident Evil 4 becomes a somewhat shittier version of Resident Evil 4 that gets reworked into Resident Evil 4. You know what the important part of those games are? They fucking came out. They got called different shit, but they fucking came out. They didn't take a year's worth of fucking work and just throw it in the trash. They did that once with Resident Evil 2, and everyone on that was like, we can never do this again.
RE4
never do this again.
RE4 was a platform in and of itself.
And all the games that came from RE4 were good.
That's crazy.
Right? And because they were like their ideas and their documentation was pseudo complete. It was just like, this isn't going to be really a good Resident Evil game. Maybe it could be just something different. The general way to do it now is like have teams work on it for like 3 years and like, what do you got? And they're like, I don't know, whatever. Do you have a playable level? No. Like Skull and Bones. Oh man, Skull and Bones. That one's going to be the one forever. They're contractually obligated by a foreign government to finish it, and there's nothing. That game has nothing to show for it.
I just want the boat. I just want the boat.
Somebody in the chat says Skull and Bones is dead. No, it's not. They have to finish it.
Give me the boat. Just let me boat. And shanty. Boat and shanty. That's it. That's all.
I think it's Taiwan that they're making it there.
I forget.
Or it's either Taiwan or Singapore. I forget which, but they took like a tax break from the government to build the game there. So the game has to come out, or else that government gets to fuck them over.
But yeah, no, just I was just
Singapore. Okay.
To quote Josh Foreman from Super Bunny Hop put out a video recently talking about stuff during the pandemic and remote work in companies, and then rollback, and I stepped in to talk about rollback for him in the video for a bit.
Is it you just saying the word rollback 30 times?
It is. It's me just saying the word rollback over the course of about 5-10 minutes, give or take. But there's a part of the video where he's also talking about like the companies and studios that learn to work from home, and Josh Foreman in it basically talks about crunch and how it's like the way to look at things as like crunch in studios that are set up this way is an inevitability unless management actively fights against it. You know, so. That means churn is an inevitability unless management actively fights against it. And if they don't see the downside to just refreshing the batteries that have died, then why would they consider that a problem?
One of the things Doc's been talking about on his Twitter that's quite interesting is about auteur theory. And how game journos are absolutely miserable at defining people as auteurs. In that you see in interviews now, they'll call Ken Levine an auteur, which like he's not. And like the number one feature of a quote unquote auteur is that you can tell their work from a glance. You can tell. Like, put Death Stranding in front of somebody with no otherwise knowledge. They will, within 5 minutes, they'll be like, is this a Hideo Kojima game? Right? Absolutely. 100%. Same thing with Cage, ironically enough. And the number one thing for most auteurs is that you can tell it's them because they always work with the same people. And usually they work with the same people because they're fun to work with. It's a good creative team endeavor. Right? So Kojima Productions, you mean the team he wholesale lifted from that company and kept working with?
Well, you know what I saw earlier this week? It's funny you say that because I was looking when I was getting Silent Hill all set up, and I'm looking at PT, and I see, score Ludwig Forssell. I'm like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's funny though because the word auteur, like I feel like I've never used it because I don't feel like I can use it accurately.
Hmm.
But I guess yeah,
Like
Kojima
Jackie
and
Chan is one. Jackie Chan's team, his stunt team, when he makes a Jackie Chan movie, is like from the directing is very obviously this is a Jackie Chan movie right now.
well, when you say a blank movie, the
Yeah.
name blank is who the it would be
Yes.
because the director of Jackie Chan's movies is not Jackie Chan always, but
Hmm.
it's still called a Jackie Chan movie because that's
Right.
what the you know
Because
authorship, I suppose.
it has a certain overall feel that's very common with the
Sure,
person,
sure.
right? Ken Levine don't got that because motherfucker churns people like crazy. That his fucking Bioshock Infinite shipped and his whole team disintegrated.
Yeah, I. The other thing too is when there is someone on the team or a number of people on the team, if you could see like the behind the scenes and see like how tight and close they are specifically, and like these people are getting along in a way that like they click and they understand it. To be so, you know what's analogous and topical is if you ever watch the making of the Matrix back in the day.
Hmm.
The visual effects, like so when you see the Wachowskis working with John Gaeta, who was responsible for the visual effects in the original trilogy, like
Hmm.
uh, the way that they approach problems and then create wild, unorthodox solutions and get to a point where they're just like, "We trust you with this," and it's like, "Okay, don't worry, John's gonna figure it out. It'll look cool." And there's a thing there where it blends nicely because that signature of what he did like is as equally important as everything else going on with those movies that the Wachowskis did. So when you go on and then he's not there in the new thing, but you are trying to do the same things, then you're gonna feel the absence of him.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, yeah.
What a mess. That game's gonna go wildly over budget and come out fucking mid. Kudos to anybody working on that.